here contributed to open source software? Hey, raise your hand. Good, good, good. Who here has contributed to Angular? Yeah, the team, of course. And just to know, more than just the docs, for example? Good one, of course. Hi, I'm Matt. Most of you know me by my nick on the internet, the very French Jean Mesh. I work for a consulting company in France where I'm a senior software engineer, and I collaborate with the Angular team. Woo! I come from the city of Grenoble that is known to have hosted the Olympic Games '68. And we're here today in the city that hosted the Winter Olympics in '02. So that's a transition. And we're here to talk today about open source software and contribution. And you know that open source is awesome. Why is it awesome? Because it's already available, and it's free stuff. True. And what's great also is someone else is maintaining it for you, and you can even blame them for the bugs. But that's not it. The frameworks, the open source frameworks are great. But they are also very vast, and mastering them can be hard. And when you want to master Angular, you're gonna, let's say, it will take some time. You have a lot to learn. And this is what led me actually to contribute to Angular. Sorry. So my journey started, and I had to look back for this date, with a workshop at work in 2017. I used it a lot since then. I opened the first issue in 2019 and opened my first PR in 2022. And how did it start for me? It was a slow day at work, and I was bored. Bored, and I didn't know what to do. I had on my computer the repo already cloned because I was already investigating some performance issue, wanted to understand some inner workings in the framework. So slow day at work, I was checking the code base and stumbled upon something that caught my attention. Here, look at this directive. Router link, you know them, you know it very well, you use it probably in most apps. And look at the selector. This caught me off guard. I say, oh, looks like something that could be refactored quite easily. And this is the change I made. I was like, oh, seems reasonable. Why not comment it and make a PR out of it? And actually, this is my first PR, and it landed a few days, 3 or 4 days after I submitted it. And I was really happy to see that my name, for a little guy from France, is in the release note of Angular. I was really happy with it. And that's how it started. And my first advice is, when you want to contribute to Angular or whatever project, just be curious, be bold, look at the code bases and try something. If you have an idea, if you think you can do something, be bold, do it, do the change, open your PR. But in the case of Angular, people have offered me, how can I start contributing? A lot of you want to contribute. So where to start? And the team has been doing something, I think, really interesting. We have labels and issues, and 2 are very interesting for people that want to start contributing. First one is good first issue. The label speaks for itself. And the second one is help wanted. As it's mentioned, it's issues that the team considers is quite accessible for open source contributions. So if you want to look for some issues you can work on, check out the issues with those labels. Okay. Other easy contributions, and for example, I saw that one was done today by Dan Wallen, who was probably working on his slides for this presentation this afternoon. It was a typo, for example, on the new angular.dev doc site. As you know, it is still in beta, and there are probably some small typos that you could actually fix yourself and land your first PR and your first change into the Angular repo. So, when I started me opening several PRs, I didn't really know about those issues. I went for what I knew I was able to do. And here are the set of the first PR I opened. If you look at it, it's mostly refactoring. I refactored what I could see. It was either to-dos or some deprecated code. For example, I knew that Angular didn't support Internet Explorer 11 anymore, so I just deleted that code that wasn't needed anymore by the framework. So just go for what you know. And just about when you want to start, how do you start? Really, to just learn the changes. You for the repo on GitHub, you have it on your computer, you make the change, you open the PR, and congrats, you're an open source contributor. You get yourself a beer or a water, whatever you want. And my second point here is, do what you actually know. Start simple, and go do what you know. Now let's talk about issues. When we talk about issues, I would say there are two different types. There are normal issues, that we open an issue, few details, no reproduction, okay, it's just already an issue. And there are what I would call the great issues. A great issue, for example, is an issue that has a minimal reproduction, for example, with the amazing tool that is tablets. I recommend using it. It's awesome. So, having a minimal reproduction will help you. And it will also help the maintainers. As a maintainer, we appreciate the reproduction because it helps investigating the issue, and it helps also the user providing a quick fix or a quick answer to the problem. And for the people having the issue, it is important to just narrowing down the problem to understand what the issue actually is. And sometimes narrowing the issue helps you understand and helps you even fix the problem in the first place. It's like I said, small rubber duck. Narrowing down will help you understand, and sometimes you can fix it yourself. So a good bro, a dev, a buddy, a brodet, or a comrade provides a repro when it works on an issue. Helps both parties. Next, are you aware of what you do when you do a change? Are you aware of the consequences? For example, here is one of the PR I opened very early. I thought it was an easy change. It was a break-in change. Let's look at the change here. Here we have the query list that was returned by the changes on, I don't remember exactly which class it was, but I was angry that it was observable any. You say, any is not that great, doesn't help you much. I was thinking, adding query list T. And do you know what the consequences are when you do this change? It's a major breaking one. So are you aware what you do here when you do this kind of change? When you do a breaking change, you don't like, when you update your application, you do ng-update, and ng-update handles the breaking changes for you by running the migration that the team provide with each major versions. But you have to know that those migration has to be written. So every time someone introduces a breaking change, I have the choice of providing a migration or not providing it. But if you do not provide the migration, then you will break someone else's app. And you do not appreciate when someone else, by changing something in a dependency, breaks your own app. So Being aware that when you change something, it's great that you also provide a smooth transition to the changes by, for example, providing a migration will help other developers. And this leads me to introduce to you the concept of API servers. The API servers, imagine Angular is a black box. The API servers is all of those button knobs, everything lever on this box that allows you to interact with it. Any change to those APIs, to those buttons that allows you to interact, can be a breaking change. So if there is some change, for example, on the classes, the types, the interface, enums, probably you're changing the servers and you're changing something and you're breaking something somewhere else. So you have to know and you need to be aware of when you learn something, is it breaking something for someone else? And if it is, probably provide some migration path. So my fourth point is be aware of the consequences of your changes. Next, I would say, how does a code base that is almost 10 years old age? What kind of practice helps a code base age well? What can we follow? And the first one I would talk about is having a good commit tree. This is something I learned while contributing on the Angular framework. We have now over almost 10 years of contribution on it, and sometimes we need to understand why a change was introduced. And this is being really possible by having a clean commit tree. So basically, the main idea is here, a commit is a unit of work. So when you do a PR, mostly one commit. If you need to do some changes, you amend the commit. If you are already in a review phase, you do some fix-ups. It helps the reviewer see the delta changes without changing the initial commit first. Then when everything is done in the review phase, you squash everything, you get back to the single commit. You have now a nice history. It's easier to do a git blame on the file, on the changes. And if ever this can happen, there is a breaking change introduced and you say, oh, I need to revert it, then it's a single commit that you can revert. It eases the work for this. So, contributing to OSS project will also teach you to be very knowledgeable with Git. Having a good commit tree, a clean commit tree will help the project and other maintainers, other contributors along the path. Other good practice you will learn by contributing to project is the way of commenting the code. So you could have two different kinds of comments. For example, the first one, this is one very common you see, for example, with juniors. They comment a lot of things that are really obvious. Having an increment function methods and say, oh, the comment, okay, this function just increments my counter. Okay, you can infer that directly from the code itself. This comment is actually, doesn't bring a lot of value. Another case could be a comment that says, okay, here I introduced this code. It's not obvious why, so I'm commenting it and say, okay, here we have a bug. We're working around it. It depends on another issue, on another project, another repo. You link to it. So you bring information that the code itself cannot bring to you. So when you do some changes, it's important to help the next developer, the next maintainer, the next person that's going to read your code to understand why this change was introduced in your code base. And this can help sometimes someone 5, 10 years later that will read your code. Oh, sorry, I was not on the right slide. This is what I meant. So, this, I would say, learn the ways of the great maintainer by bringing knowledge into the code base itself, not only the code, but by the comments also. So next, so when you do some changes, and it happened also to me when I went in some parts that I was less comfortable modifying, but I wanted to fix an issue, saying, okay, the change seems to fix the issue, but does it introduce some regressions? Regressions are not that great. So you don't want to break something, someone else's app. And how does the framework itself, the repo, prevents from regression? And for this, there's a lot of tools integrated already. And for example, we have around 30K test cases into the code base. So massive unit test coverage that helps a lot to cover a lot of regression. But also, we have integration tests. It means basic apps that are built by the CI just to check that the build works fine and nothing is broken. When I talked about also the API surface, to check what are the changing around the surface, there is what we call symbol tracking that will just tell every symbol that is publicly available on the API, and every change will be visible on the file that check the symbols. So if you do just a type change, or you introduce a new API, or you remove a deprecated one, this will be visible by the symbol tracking. Another one that is important, that helped me a lot gain confidence on a feature I provided a few months back. The size tracking will help understand if there is a breaking, for example, in lazy loading. So when I helped introducing the lazy animations, I wanted to gain the confidence to see that somewhere along the path, it won't be broken by some changes. And some tests allowed to see the size of the demo apps, and if there was a breaking change into the lazy loading, this would appear in the size tracking. Also, dependency cycle tracking, there are some tools that allows you to check if you do not introduce a cycle into your files. And one of the most interesting one I learned while contributing on the project is what Google's monorepo allows to do with Angular. So you have to know that Google uses a huge monorepo in which Angular is used heavily. So Google, inside the repo, use only a single version of Angular. It means that every app that Google has, around several thousand apps, uses one version of Angular, and it's the head of the history. Okay, if ever there is a regression on the latest commit, someone at Google would say, hey, my app is broken. We'll tell the Angular team, hey, this change probably broke something. Can you check, is it our app? Is it Angular that broke something? It will help the team understand that there was a breaking change and needs to have a look at it. And this happens every day, every time there is a sync between the GitHub repo and Google's monorepo. So you have to know that every time a change is integrated into Angular, it is actually battle tested right directly into by the apps at Google that are currently developed. And this helps gain a lot of confidence that the changes are solid and you won't even see those regression when the releases happen. So what I said, the team is notified when something breaks an app somewhere. Also around test, if ever you want to try to fix an issue, my recommendation would be just go for a TDD approach, saying, okay, I want to start to introduce the test that I think is broken. And from this point, it will allow you to go up the code path to just find where exactly in the code base itself the bug is, and it will allow you to fix it, and then you can land the fix on the repo itself. So here, major point. So the test will help you, will cover you and help you gain confidence about your change, but will also tell the team what are the impact really of the change you're introducing into the code base. So what can a random developer, you, me, everybody, bring to the Angular team, bring in Angular itself? You can contribute with just and more code. The team relies on some, let's say, does some, sorry. Yeah. So when a new version of Angular is released, either a minor or a major, the Angular goes through a release candidate phase, and if ever you test these apps, you can report issues you encounter during the RC phase. This is a kind of contribution. Other one you can do when there are new RFCs that are open, comments are welcome by the team. And also, as ever, if you see a bug, if you have an idea, you can open issues. You have to know that, okay, the team is really busy, some awesome features. These are the ones that were shipped recently, for example, in V17. But it doesn't mean that because they are busy with some critical issues, non-critical ones are not important. So there are some issues that are really interesting to work on and that can be shipped, and doesn't mean that because the team is not working on it, it's not important. It's just that sometimes there is other priorities. And I can take few examples that I had the chance to work on. For example, lazy loading of animation, providing a fetch implementation for the HTTP backend, working on the transfer state for SSR, or currently I'm looking into providing a new implementation for the internalization subsystem that will improve the DX, for example. So these are features that are interesting, but let's say it's not that they are not important, but there are other priorities also for the team that you can bring as a developer, as an open source contributor, you can bring back to the framework. And non-critical features, but still awesome, I can point one. If you sort the issues currently on the Angular repo, you sort by thumbs up, and you see there is one issue at the top. It is around a unified control state change observable that people want. And those are the kind of issues that the community can bring to Angular. And this is one of the one I took, for example, that is currently on PR and that will probably land in the next major. So you can do. This is what the community can bring to Angular itself. But other things that could also happen. French buddy of mine, Younes, GDE also, had an idea how to improve DX, saying, okay, we have a lot of talk about the initialization. We could provide something maybe simpler, had an idea to replace just a token and having a function, because those tokens are multi, you also give a callback function, etc. By providing a function, you enforce some type safety, etc. It's a good idea. He said, first he opened an issue, and then Tim suggested, okay, it's a nice idea. You could also do it. So he went for it. So the community can also bring ideas, and they can also be implemented if it goes along the ideas what the team thinks the framework should provide. So the community is also a source of suggestion. And the main point is here, the Angular team welcomes contributions. So if you have ideas, they are welcome. And I want to say for you that the adventures starts today. Feel free to open some issues, to open some PRs. And if you have some questions, my time is almost over. You can ask me here. You can ask the community or myself on Discord, on Twitter. I'm also available under my nickname, Jean__mesh. Or you can open some issues directly to reach the team on GitHub. Thank you very much.